Hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about relationships, marriage, and the difficulties that can come with being involved in romantic relationships. I mean, for a start, I think everybody kind of sacrifices some degree of their, well, maybe not everyone, but I'd say the vast majority of people that get involved romantically with someone end up kind of sacrificing some degree of their individuality and their personality over time. I think especially men, although I would say it's probably a bit of both, men and women, I suppose, in different ways, kind of lose certain things, or certain things kind of become weakened over time. And while there are certainly a lot of great things to be said about romantic relationships and a sense of stability and the level of comfort, I guess, familiarity, and having somebody to come home to. It's not all fun and games. It's not all easy. It's challenging at times, and it can. I think over time it's because essentially what you've got two people, two individuals. Unless, I'm sure there are certain people out there that align very closely with each other, and might not be as much tension between them, perhaps, but there are problems but there are always issues. There are the different types of issues depending on the dynamics of the relationship and the personality types that are in them. Some people might go down the lines of the whole star sign route and things like that. I don't particularly believe in any of that bollocks, but some people might go by that. Some people would, look on with regards to different types of personalities and how they work or don't work together, or what's a better fit, or what's likely to be a good fit. Whatever, I've certainly had personality clashes with people in the past, just even with friends, really, and just co-workers and so forth, and just people you meet from just whatever circumstances you're in at times, and you just might randomly meet someone or something, whatever it might be, and you just don't particularly get along. You just don't even within the first 5-10 minutes you just don't really like that person. You just don't particularly. I mean, you can't go by that, but impressions do count, and I think you can't get obviously you can't entirely judge someone within the first 5-10 minutes, but I think you can get an idea of what that person might be like, to some extent. That's really it's quite a deep thing that you'd have to would take a long time to go through, really. But my point here is basically that I think you really have to be very careful with the. I think you've really got to know yourself, and you've got to know. You really need to know the types of people that you're likely to get along with, and those that you aren't. And I think that's why jumping into relationships at a young age isn't. It's not wise really. It's not. But young people will be young people, and I'm no exception. I did that when I was younger, and I wouldn't say I regret it, but entirely. But I certainly it wasn't. Upon reflection of it, it wasn't. It wasn't the best decision I've made in my life, but let's put it that way. Not that I've made many good decisions, but so you've got to be very careful with. I think there's so many things that people can be attracted to without you even really realizing it, and sometimes you don't always realize who you are until you sort of neck deep in a relationship or even a marriage, and it's kind of like I think you've got to be careful not to become dependent on people. I think if I could have my young days over, if I could go back to my early 20s again, I would have stayed in college. I would have tried to go to university probably, and I wouldn't have got involved with really a lot of people I got involved with, and certainly my ex-partner as well. That was in some ways it was I think it was important in some regards for me at that time in my life, but also it was very silly really. I was very naive, I was very ignorant, I think, and I'm glad that all that came to an end when it did. Although it really should have ended. It should never have started to begin with, really. It shouldn't have happened, really. But in some ways, I'm kind of glad that it happened. But because I was young and I don't know, I was looking for some degree of excitement in my boring life at that point, and I guess to some extent I was sort of looking for love in the wrong places, I guess, and I don't know, I was just a young man and I wanted to get some experience, I guess. There's no point sugarcoating it. It is what it is, and I not necessarily blame my ex or anything. It was we both made mistakes, and it shouldn't have happened, really, though. It shouldn't have happened. But having said that, if it hadn't have happened, I wouldn't be where I am now. In certain ways, although I did make my own choices, so it's not entirely down to hair or anything necessarily. But in the sense of, I suppose, it was a thing of kind of like a knock-on effect type of thing, where this situation led to this situation led to this situation, and I had to make choices, and then I made some choices based on these circumstances and these issues, and so that led me to something else, and blah blah blah. The rest is history. But I certainly didn't intend to. I never intended to stay over here. I never intended to get married. That wasn't my plan when I left England back in, what was it, March 2015, I think it was. but that's life, you know. You don't always, you don't always, you know. I don't have a crystal ball. I didn't know exactly how things were going to pan out. I thought, yeah, of course, you in the back of your mind, you're thinking, you know, well, what's gonna come of this? You know, is this gonna work out? Is this the right thing? Is this the right path that I'm on? Am I making the right choices? Blah blah blah. But when you're young, it's like you kind of carefree, and it's like you're just kind of going along with you're just kind of just going along the road type of thing, and it's like you're not really thinking about the future so much because you're young and you think you're invincible and you think you're going to be young forever, and then bam, you know, you wake up, you're 30, and you know your youth's practically gone. You know, I'm 34 now, and you know, for all intents and purposes, my youth's over basically. I mean, you can see it in my face. I'm chubby, and you know, I've got bags under my eyes. You know, my youth, my young days are coming to an end basically. You know, I mean, you're not old in your 30s or 40s, but I mean, let's be honest, you're kind of past your best, I think, to some extent, physically and in terms of, although some people might say that you're a little better when you get older, but I don't know. I think for most people, you look your best. You probably feel your best physically in terms of like your health and things for the most part in your 20s and early to mid 20s, really. And so I think a lot of things went wrong, really. I made a lot of ill thought out. You know, I didn't think things through when I was younger. I didn't plan for the future. I didn't. I just did. You know, it's just not. It wasn't something that I was like occupied with for the most part. I wasn't thinking about 5 years down the line, 10. Not really. I mean, yes, you had sort of passing thoughts about things from time to time, like you probably do with any age. You know, you ponder on things from time to time, but you never really think you're gonna get another 5 years. You're gonna be 5 years older, 10 years older than you are now. It's like you're living in the moment. You're living now, and this is how things are right now. It's like you don't realize how things are going to change, and just how many things are going to shape you and mold you over time, and how your personality plays into that as well. Like your personality is molded by, you know, your early experiences, your genetics probably to some extent, you know, learned behaviour, your influences from being a child, teenager, a young adult. But as you get older, I think you don't always realise just how much baggage you're carrying around with you, and I think in my early 20s I was very, very insecure, very sensitive, stubborn, very defensive from time to time, and I think to some extent I still am, but in different ways now than I used to be. Like, I think now it's like I don't really care that much. Like when I was younger, I was very sensitive about criticism, and I don't know. I guess I always felt that everything was an attack, I guess, and sometimes it was, and sometimes it wasn't, and I think it takes time to get to know yourself. It takes time to accept things about yourself. It takes time to to mature, and you know, it takes a long time to be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, you know, I fucked up. I made some bad mistakes. I made some silly choices, and I've got nobody else to blame but myself. You know, that my life is where it is because of my own perhaps lack of guidance, maybe lack of intelligence, just not thinking things through. Because I think I think it's because I came from a period of sort of like instant gratification. Like when I was young, it was like I guess I didn't realize how lucky I was when I was a kid and a teenager, and I had so many things. I had a pretty decent upbringing, I suppose. Like when I think about, you know, just it was just a great time in many respects. Like technology, and there was a sense of this sort of, it's hard to describe it, the sort of freshness in the air about the millennium and all that kind of thing, and it was just it was a time where a lot of things were changing during the Blair years. And anyway, I'm going completely off topic here, but going back to marriage and things. I think I settled down too quickly. I think that's I settled down too quickly because I was lonely. I think that is the truth of the matter. I was lonely. And I guess I couldn't do enough by myself, so I needed somebody else to do things for me to some extent. Because I didn't have the skills, I didn't have the knowledge and the maturity to do certain things that I should have been able to do it when I was younger. But I think more than anything else, I think ultimately I was looking for someone to guide me. I was looking for someone to inspire me. I was looking for someone to motivate me, because I think I lacked self-motivation, and I still struggle with it now. And when you're going through, you know, bouts of depression, it makes it 10 times worse, because if you, I think I struggled. I didn't have a lot of confidence when I was younger, and I think that's I kind of think that's perhaps why ultimately I ended up settling down when I did, because I hate to put it this way, but I think I didn't really have any game. I didn't have any confidence with women when I was younger, and I think I just kind of settled for less. I settled for, I guess I just didn't. I felt like I didn't deserve any better, or I couldn't get any better, maybe. So I just ended up settling down with people, and before you know it, you get comfortable with people, and you don't realise just how much of a mistake you're making. It was and people did try to tell me. People tried to, I think, from time to time, sort of guide me to some extent. Not that it's not like I didn't like need this constant reassurance or this constant validation or anything like that. It was just that I think from time to time I just needed someone to inspire me. I needed someone to kick me up the ass kind of thing, and I think that's, I suppose really in the end there were only really a handful of people that did that for me for growing up, and I say that because like over here it's like you don't really. Yeah, of course I'm an adult and I have to make my own. I have to get myself into a state of mind where I do things myself and I push myself to do things. But of course, from time to time, you need a bit of a lift. You know, you need something to just push you a little bit. You know, to give you some momentum, I guess. And I think I felt ultimately in this. Certainly over the last few years, I don't really feel that I've had much of that in my relationship, and also in it's just kind of been a bit of a void these past few years. It's just been a bit of a, I'd say really the last 6-7 years really. It's like kind of just been a bit. It's all right. It's been all right, I guess. But it's nothing. There's not. I don't really think I haven't really truly felt inspired for any real length of time or motivated properly by anything, or I haven't really felt, oh, I must do that, I really need to do this. I've been apart from finishing my degree, apart from like putting DJ sets up and stuff like that. I mean, apart from that, I mean, poetry from time to time, but I mean, it's all just kind of a bit. I mean, even that, it's like when I listen back to those things now, it's like I just find it all boring. Like I don't even like particularly even enjoy it anymore. That's kind of why I stopped. I think I've just felt. I just haven't had any. There's no light bulbs that have come on in my head really in that way. These past few years, like there's nothing's. I just think that you've got to be very careful when you're putting all your eggs in one basket kind of thing, and you've got to be very careful with the type of person that you settle down with, because you end up becoming something that you aren't necessarily, or you end up becoming, I think you just end up becoming like, you know, I think the best way to describe it is like squeezing a lemon or something. Like you kind of just start to become, you just don't feel alive anymore. You don't feel any real energy, like just like, and as well as that, you end up, you know, once you settle down with someone, that's basically, it's game over for you, especially when you start having children as well. Like you say goodbye to your friends, your old friends and people like that. All that stuff goes out the window. That's it for the most part. That's finished. It's done. And so I think I lost a lot of things because of the choices that I made. I made some very unwise. I went on a path that wasn't. I didn't have that many options. That is the truth of the matter. I didn't have a lot of options as to, in terms of like jobs, careers, you know, I guess I'm sort of probably somewhere, sort of average intelligence, I guess. Maybe probably. And because of that, I was never gonna be a. I was never gonna amount to. Yeah, I certainly was never gonna amount to anything along the lines of, you know, some major career or anything like that. It just wasn't smart enough for it, and I think more than anything else, I think what's ruined my life in many ways is a lack of discipline, a lack of confidence in myself, and just a lack of belief that I could do anything. Because I was just always doing stupid things, always saying stupid things, just not knowing enough. And that wears you down gradually. And although I've tried to like increase my knowledge about certain things, I've got a terrible memory, and I'm just not very smart. There's just no way around it. That's just the truth. And that's not me just putting myself down, that's just a fact. And you know, that's why it took me as long as it has to finish my degree ultimately. You know, it's like, because it was hard. Well, first of all, it was hard work. Secondly, it was difficult to tolerate for so long, and so I had to take breaks from time to time. And you know, there were times where I just didn't feel like I could go on with it. I didn't feel like I could continue with it anymore, and I almost gave in at times. And I've just always had this issue with like just being like going from one extreme to the other. So I don't know if I've got bipolar or something. I sometimes think I might have, because I go from one, like being really motivated one moment, to then just like, oh, I just can't be arsed, I can't be bothered, I don't want to do any more of this. And I get incredibly bored and frustrated and tired with things and people very, very quickly. But I don't think it's necessarily that it's external things. It's in myself. There's something not right within me. There's something broken. There's something damaged within myself that I can't quite. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's clearly something to do with mental health. It's something. So I don't know if it's just depression, or whether it's whether it's bipolar or something. I honestly don't know, but I've never been diagnosed with bipolar. I've always, like, when I've done tests, like mental health tests and things, it's always like depression. So I don't know, but I think as I'm I don't know. I think just ultimately I've just felt these past few years just really fucking miserable, like, and like, it's not like a consistent thing. It's like I go through periods where I'm alright, feel pretty good, you know, I'll go and exercise, I'm in a pretty decent mood, and then all of a sudden, just like, I just can't be bothered anymore. I just can't be bothered. I just give up. I don't know. It's just like a switch that just turns off after a while. It's like I just have this like period where I'm like period of time where I'm motivated, and I'm like, I can do this, and I'm saying positive things to myself, and I'm like, yeah, I do deserve this. I do deserve to be happy. I do deserve, and I can do this, and I've got to stop making excuses. But then it's just like a switch comes on my head, and it's just like all of that's turned off, and I just lose the momentum, I guess. And that's really, really, that hurts me. That's really hurtful, because I know I could have achieved more from my life. I know I could have done more. I could have been something. And now that I'm in my mid-30s, I mean, time's running out, basically. It's like, what can I hope for at this point? I shouldn't say this on here, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm basically I'm in a situation that I don't really want to be in anymore, quite frankly. I'm broke, financially speaking. Got nothing in the bank these days. Don't particularly want to teach anymore, to be honest. And to be honest, I'm kind of a bit tired. I'm kind of bored of the place that I'm in. And I'm not ungrateful. I'm thankful to be here and for the Thai authorities for allowing me to stay here for as long as I have. And I'm incredible, and I'll always be grateful for that. But there comes a point where, like, I think you just there has to come a crunch time. Surely there has to come a point where, and that's why I'm in now. Actually, I'm kind of working towards change slowly, where you say to yourself, I just can't carry on like this. I can't go on like this anymore. And it's just all cliche stuff, It's like you're tired, sick and tired of everything. You're at a crossroads and all that crap. And I just feel like I've got no life in me these days. I feel like I've got no energy. I feel like I just don't feel alive anymore. And I know I've said these things on my channel multiple times on Facebook Lives I used to do it on Facebook Live. I don't do that anymore because I stick to YouTube now. Because nobody seemed to want to listen. I'm sure most of my family and anybody that's ever knew would probably won't listen to this either. But if they happen to, then they know what's going on with me, rather than me having to spill everything out to them in person or on the phone or whatever. It's like, well, just watch my videos, then you'll know what's going on, what the deal is. But I think my romantic situation isn't ideal. It's kind of become a little bit toxic, to be honest. It's become incredibly tedious, and I just think that we've both kind of given up, really. We're basically more like roommates these days, and I've said this before. I don't know if I said it in the last video, I'm not sure, but we're basically roommates at this point. The whole, like it's the same with any couples. You have your kind of, your whirlwind romance, sort of, heightened emotions, honeymoon period, and before you settle down, and it's all right for a while, and then just over time, you start noticing things and habits set in, and the person that you liked at the beginning, you're just not sure if you like them anymore. And I think now I'm kind of like, I love the woman and everything, but just kind of like, it's just like every day, it's just like, oh, this shit again, this crap again, this boring conversation again, this mediocre sex again, this monotony, day after day after day after day after day after day. And you just start thinking, is this my life now? Is this what I've got to look forward to for the next God knows how long? And at that point you start thinking to yourself, I don't know if I want to be in this relationship anymore. Because it just becomes, it's not, you know, you can't expect every day to be up and to be bursting with positivity and joy and happiness. Of course not, but when it gets to a point where you're not enjoying each other's company that much anymore, and delivery here, but I'm just gonna go and check. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll be back in one moment. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I'll be back in one moment. Just typical when you're trying to do something. Sorry about this. Always when you're trying to do something. Just can't leave you alone for 5 seconds. Give me one moment, guys. I'll be back in a second. Okay, I'm back. I had a delivery. So yeah, marriages. And if anybody's wondering why I'm wearing a hat, it's because I have this crap haircut. I'm waiting for my hair to grow out a little bit. So what was this? Where was I? Ah, yes, relationships, marriages. I don't know. I think we all have to get to a stage where we all have to reach a breaking point. We all have to reach a point where you have to reach rock bottom, or what you think is rock bottom, because there has to come a point where you get so incredibly frustrated and down and depressed with everything, where you then have to say, well, okay, so where do I go from here? I mean, do I just keep go around in a cycle, or do I do something? Do I try and do something? And I don't know, I just think that you know, you can't go on. You can't go on living a certain way if it's not if it's not doing you anything good anymore. Then you need to get out of it. Basically, I think is the best way to put it. You know, there's no point being miserable just for the sake of it. It's like, I just think that, you know, of course there are always you know, there are always great things about relationships and being married, but there are also things that if you're not careful, start to wear away at your soul over time. And I think I don't know, sometimes I just think that I have a love-hate relationship with my country, with my city, and I don't really want to go back home, but sometimes I miss certain things, and also at the same time you're thinking to yourself, well, you know, how much longer can you stay over here anyway? You know, you're not going to get citizenship here, and I don't really want to anyway. You know, is this really where you want to be for the rest of your life? I think the answer to that is no, not really. You know, I'd be quite happy to, if I could get a decent paying job back in England, I'd be happy to go home. But the chances of that at the moment, with the way things are over there, it's just, I'd love to be able to do one of these like travel, like vlogging type things. I'd love to do something like that. That'd be quite interesting. You know, sometimes you see things on. I think what my point I'm getting to, I think the overriding point of this video is that I'm not where I want to be. I'm not who I want to be. I'm not with the person really that I'd like to be with. Although I do certainly love that person very much, but it's not always enough though. It's not always enough, and I think I don't know. I just think that I think I checked out of this a long time ago, to be honest. And look, I'm not going to sit here and point the finger and blame everybody else. I made my own choices. I've got to live with those choices, and at the end of the day, I have to do something about it. And the first step is getting a job. The second step is saving up money, and then at some point I've got to make a change. I've got to make a decision on what I'm going to do with the rest of my life, because I don't really want to be here for the rest of my life. I don't want to live here. I certainly don't want to live here for the next 5 years. That's for sure. Certainly not the next 10 years. I don't want to be here. I'd quite like to. I would. I wouldn't mind going back to the UK if we had a different government. I think if we had like Reform in power, I'd be quite happy to go back home at that point. But with Labour in power, I'm really actually looking forward to seeing what happens with the local elections next year. I think it's going to be some pretty shock surprises. I think it's going to be. I really hope that this is that is the start of the beginning of the end of Labour next year. I hope, and I hope that they get kicked out before their 5-year reign has any chance of getting going. I suspect they'll be in power though. They'll stay in power for the next 5 years for whatever reasons. And probably Reform won't even win the next election. So it's quite possible you might have the Liberal Democrats in power, the next government, or some kind of a coalition, in 2029, and then after that, I suspect you might have Reform in power, possibly, but we'll see how things go. But I really hope that I can do something like over the next few years where I can do something that I actually kind of like and enjoy, and I get some pleasure out of it. Because work can't just all be about money. Because that's not a way to live your life. And also, I really think I hope that at some point that I end up in a situation where there's more compatibility, there's more life in that situation than there is at the moment, because it just feels very dead, and it's felt very dead for at least a few years, and I've got very, very tired of it. So to all those young guys out there, who are looking for love, or women, just be careful. Be very, very careful, especially when you come over here. Be very, very careful who you jump into bed with. Because you never know who you're going to get attached to. You never know what you're getting yourself into. And if you want my honest advice, don't bother, because it's not worth it. It's just not worth it in the end. I'm sorry to say it, but it's not worth it. It's not worth the hassle. It's not worth the money. Because ultimately, what you're going to genuinely find over here is that, for the most part, although in Bangkok it's somewhat, there's more of a middle class here, but even having said that, average salaries here aren't particularly great. So anything that can boost one's salary is seen as a, there's this thing of like dominating Westerners kind of thing. I think that's prevalent over here. It's this thing of, we've conquered you, we've got your money, You know, it's like, it's kind of like reverse imperialism or something like that. It's this sense of, we're gonna seduce you into this situation, then we're gonna basically try and use you and abuse you for all we can get financially. And if you really genuinely think that you're going to be loved by people over here, you're sadly mistaken. It's not like that. That doesn't mean to say that there aren't genuine relationships where people do genuinely care and love each other, because of course there will be those. But for the most part, that's just not the case. It's people in situations. You know, it's people trying to get out of their situations. It's people like myself who saw an opportunity and seized the opportunity. For my situation, it wasn't like a purely financial thing. It was just I want to get out of this shithole of a city that I was in and try and see a bit of the world before I get too old, kind of thing. And also because I was bored and I just lost my job at the time, so I had nothing to lose. But I think over here, you know, it's like Thai women have got nothing to lose because the state is in support of them. You know, I wouldn't give these people 2 fucking cents, quite frankly. I'm sorry to say, and I wouldn't in Cambodia or Laos or Vietnam or any part of this part of the world. To be honest, they see you as an ATM for the most part. They see you as a financial opportunity more than anything else, and they'll yes, you'll get all the sex that you want, you'll get all of this, you'll get all of that, all the validation, all the admiration, all the ego boosting shit that women think that you don't know what they're doing. And you know, it's just been there, got the t-shirt, and I'm wiser for it. And you know, I certainly won't be, if I ever date again at some point, it won't be over here. It won't be within a time, that's for sure. It'll be with somebody that I actually either know or have known for some while, or somebody in my own city. I wouldn't do this again. I wouldn't. Yes, it's not all been bad. It's been, but I don't think it's sustainable into the far future, personally. And I think at some point, probably sooner rather than later, it will come to an end, because it's not going anywhere, and it just seems very one-sided, and it seems that it just seems that a certain individual has an agenda, and I know what her agenda is, and I'm not going to play into it too much. I'm going to do what I have to do to get out of it and to leave at some point. And that's the bottom line. I get it, people coming over here when they're young and wanting to be a little bit wild and free and all that kind of thing. I get it, because to some extent I did it when I was in my later 20s. So I get it, I understand. But think about why you're doing it. Think about who you are, what you want, where you're going, and the potential consequences of these things later on down the line. You know, you're only young once, and you can't go back and do it. And it's a harsh, brutal lesson that you've got to accept. And by God, I've made some bad decisions. I wouldn't make them again. That's for sure. If you really want my advice, come here for a holiday. Come over this part of the world, or any part of the world really, for a holiday, and then go home. go to somewhere that you know, for all of its shitty parts and issues, unless it's really bad. And obviously that's different, but I mean, if it's not, if you can tolerate it, go home. Be around people you can understand and you can have a laugh with, and the people who get you and allow you to be who you are. And don't let someone belittle you and put you down and roll their eyes and get pissed off with you because you've just the way you said something or whatever it might be. Because that's what ends up happening over time in a relationship. In my opinion, relationships shouldn't last longer than, say, 5 years, I don't think. I think there should be a cut-off point. And also, I don't think anybody should ever really... I don't even believe in marriage at this point. I don't think it's... Unless you're like in sort of 50 up, let's say, then I think it's. But if you're in your younger or youngish adult years, don't bother with it. Leave it. Go and have fun. Just go out and have fun. But again, be careful. You know, this whole no strings attached thing, yeah, that's all good and well, but at some point you're going to end up falling for someone, either because you got seduced, emotionally, psychologically, whatever it is, financially. You know, it's a trap. It's ultimately a trap. In a lot of the cases, and I think I found myself in one to some extent of my own doing, and when you've got no sense of direction, when you're not working towards anything, or you don't really have anything in common, it's a recipe for disaster. And I kind of knew that at the beginning, but of course, you know, when you're young, you're going through all that honeymoon bullshit phase, and so naive, so dumb, so stupid. But you live and learn. Live and learn.